Todd, Masinelli. Thank you.
The clicker, which makes me feel like my grandmother with the clicker. Right? So, as I'm listening, I'm thinking, you know, there was another event that I spoke at, and I had to follow a guy from MTV. I was like, oh man. And then there was another event that I spoke at, and I had to follow somebody from Victoria's Secret. Really? And so now I got puppies and kitties, and I got to follow that. So you're really amped up to hear about Ameren, right? Great. So here's the deal. Realistically speaking, I can talk for the next 20 minutes, and I can PowerPoint you to death. But nobody has time for that, right? Nobody has time to listen to all of that. So let's just do that. Are you good? I mean, you get everything you need out of it, right? Like, I don't need to talk. No? Like, what if it was like a topic wheel and like a sentiment widget? Would that help? No? But okay, so see, do we do this and do we chalk this up to listening? Right? Like, this is listening for a lot of us, right? You do this and you put this on your report, it goes to senior management, and you're listening. But, you know, it's just a tool, right? And there's kind of more to it. So, when we think about listening, how much of our resources do we really put behind it? If you haven't read this, do it. It's The Onion, it's funny, right? So, but it's just to illustrate, if you think about how much time we spend, like what's the ratio of our resources that we spend on preparing to talk, of making sure that content calendar, we've got that mapped out, and we've got, okay, we have this, we got to hit our social asset management system so that we've got this particular photo to go with this tweet, and then you have the 400 emails about 2 different tweets, and you spend so much time on what you're going to say versus, you know, listening to what other people are saying. So think about how that plays out. Like, what's the most overdone? And you know, I'm going to walk around with it. If I get in the way, if that bothers you, let me know. But I feel like everybody's been trapped at this side of the room, gets no love, so I'm going to walk over here. So how does that play out? If we were to use like the most overdone social media analogy ever, it's a cocktail party, right? So, but bear with me. So let's say that that's actually not the worst example ever. And if that were to be true, if you were at that cocktail party and you spent the same amount of time that we tend to do preparing to speak, thinking about what you were going to say, as opposed to actually listening, how would that play out? You would be that self-absorbed clown with the Appletini that nobody wants to talk to, right? So you don't want to be that person. So, you know, you got to kind of think about how that plays out. Now, as I was introduced, I work at Ameren Corporation. So, for those of you in the room who don't know what Ameren is, we are a St. Louis-based company that we have utility subsidiaries in Missouri and Illinois. And as we like to say, we power the quality of life for 2.4 million electric customers and over 900,000 natural gas customers in Missouri and Illinois. Now, we power the quality of life, so right, everybody's like, corporate shield, drink more Kool-Aid, right? No, but here's the thing. So, when we say that we power the quality of life, it actually means something to us. And what it means is we recognize how vitally important energy is to the quality of life of the people that we serve, right? Because, by the way, we are our own customers. So we get it. We get how important it is to power the iPads and like hospitals and things like that, right? And because we are our own customers, I mean, just anecdotally, my own family, when we do have a power outage, it's amazing. If the power goes out for like that first few seconds, we are like Neanderthals at a solar eclipse. Like, what has happened? When will the angry gods bring back the sun? So we get it, right? Like we live through this, and I have to say, our system reliability is the best it has ever been in the history of the company. But Mother Nature still sometimes throws us a curveball, which she did on May 31st. 2013. So it was about 6 p.m. with the first tornado that evening. We'll wait for that. The first tornado touched down around 6 p.m. By the time the entire storm moved through, 95,000 people in Missouri alone had no power. This is a crisis. This is a very big deal. And crisis communications, most of your crisis communication plans, and you do have crisis communication plans, you don't get one. Very important. So your crisis communication plans, like now, they have a box on that org chart, like, here's the person who's going to handle social. And to be fair, at least we get a box now. We didn't have that a while back. But you can't have like a person in a large-scale crisis who is handling all the social, right? It doesn't make sense. You can't have one person doing all the monitoring and then crafting replies and then also coming up with all the content for the outbound posts and then also listening and evaluating, how effective is what we're saying, how's this going over, and then actually gathering intelligence about the crisis. No way, you can't do that. So we split that up into separate disciplines. And what that allowed us to do is to have the person or people who are focusing on listening, they can just, all they have to worry about is get actionable insights for the people who are developing the content. Makes sense, right? So, when a crisis first hits like this, there's not a whole lot you can say, except we are aware, we are assessing, and we gotta keep you safe. In an instance like this where there's a power outage, so you'll see 800 more field crews were being deployed. Stay away from power lines. We're figuring out how big this is and where the damage is, so stay safe. So that's all you can say really initially. Then as more intelligence starts coming in from the field, as we're learning more and more and some visuals start coming in, we can start showing things like this. And we did. So we said, here's some crews from the Berkeley workstation. They're preparing to assist. Here's the truck is rolling out. We're on it. We're ready. And we started showing more and more of this, showing people, like, all right, and we thought, this is a good thing, right? You're going to want to see this. So we're on it. Help is on the way. Except, as we were listening to how this was being received, we started picking up something. Now, what I'm going to show next, they're not screenshots of actual tweets and Facebook posts. They are real. I thought it was bad form to include profile pics and handle the names of people who were complaining, so I didn't do that, but these are real. This is what we started to hear through our listeners. Right? The only place I see an Ameren truck is on this page. It's been hours and I have yet to see a single truck in my neighborhood. I'm looking out the window and I don't see your trucks. You say you're doing something, but I don't see you here. So I don't believe you're actually doing anything. Well, so here's the deal. We knew something that they didn't know. That night, remember I said the first tornado? National Weather Service reported 9 tornadoes in one night in our service territory. The really bad one that did this little tap dance through North County, that EF3, it's actually 2 that went through there. They caused just crazy destruction of our sub-transmission infrastructure. Now, sub-transmission infrastructure. For those of you who aren't electrical engineers, allow me to explain what the hell I'm talking about. Start off at the top left and you'll see an energy center. It used to be called power plants, right? They generate the power. Now you move down number 1 and that's the transmission lines. Super high voltage power getting carried to number 2, which is a substation. The substation then steps that power down to more manageable levels, distributing it out into the various neighborhoods, etc. So, to our operations folks, they're looking at the damage up at the 1 and 2 level and seeing how bad it really was. And they're thinking, well, of course you don't see trucks in the neighborhood. Trucks are down at the 4 or 5 level in neighborhoods. That's down there. So, in our minds, well, of course you don't see trucks in your neighborhood. And an analogy that I could give for this would be, imagine if a water main busts out near your neighborhood and you go to turn on a faucet and no water comes out of that faucet. You don't send a plumber to try to fix your faucet, right? The problem's upstream. Well, we knew that. Our customers had no way to know that unless we told them. So, we started showing what really was going on here. The picture on the left is one that is particularly interesting to me because it's a barge crane that came loose from its moorings, floated down the Missouri River, and contacted a transmission line that went over the river. So not only did we have tornadoes and stuff to do, we had to move a barge crane. That's kind of a big deal. And it's almost like kind of a thing now where it's I want that to be a term. Like when you think you have so much crap to deal with already, and then one more thing, it's you just got a barge crane. You can make that a thing. Hashtag barge crane. So that's one thing that we had to deal with, right? Another thing, you can see one of our substations, and you can see a whole bunch of junk in that substation that doesn't belong in that substation. So we had to start explaining, and note what we did here too. We said, look, just to even be able to start working on this, it's going to take a 2-man crew, 2 hours, to properly shut off all the power and everything leading to this, so that our crew doesn't get electrocuted when they try to move all that junk. So we started to try to set up, like, this is what it's really going to take to get power back on. This is why you don't see trucks in your neighborhood yet. Another thing that we started showing people, we explained, which you'll see on the top left here, we actually explained that whole walkthrough that I did of self-transmission infrastructure. We normally would never go to that level of detail with our customers because they just don't care. Flip a switch, it works, that's the extent of the knowledge they want to have. But in a case like this, they needed that knowledge. So we started explaining that. And we also explained how, by the way, another fun thing, the lines that went over 170 came down, so we actually had to shut down a highway, working with MoDOT, to put power lines across 170. So it's another thing that we had to explain. Film video, like, this is what's going to have to happen. So we listened, changed our communications tactics, and that's great, but we kept listening. And it revealed something else, and that was the people who were most receptive to this and understood the most that, oh yeah, this is kind of a big deal. Ameren really is on it, but it's going to take a while. The people who understood that the best, they were using a word, and that word was not a word that we were using in our own communications. And that word was tornado. We weren't saying the word tornado. We were saying damage, because that's the word that we typically use. There's a lot of damage. It's going to take a while to clean up the damage. Hail causes damage. Tornadoes cause destruction. And these folks were using that key word. And so as you look at these, I mean, even the Salvation Army, hashtag tornado, like, aha, okay. So we started piecing all of these things together and taking what we were hearing through listening and actually putting it into practice. And the thing that we did with this too, this wasn't just confined to social, where it was like, okay, make sure when you tweet, you use the word tornado, obviously. We used it across all of our communications. We used it in press releases, which of course get picked up by social too, but we started working, even with the media and helping them understand and use the same kind of terminology so that we were communicating in a unified way to our customers. And we saw a huge shift in the comments that we were getting. And it went from, wish you would show up at NOCO, to, you guys do such a great job keeping us posted on Facebook. That woman, her mom didn't even have her power back on yet. She was just happy that we were communicating properly with her. And so we started seeing this appreciation and, yay, Ameren rocks. We don't get a lot of it, right? So I'm saving this, I'm framing this. T-shirt made out of it. But this happened, and this is just a small sampling, this happened over and over and over. And so, what are the key takeaways from this? Well, okay, back to the first point that I made. The tools that we use, they can point you in the right direction, but they're just no substitute for human eyes and brains. So if you can actually spend the time and really listen, and not just talk out and check box word cloud. And that requires allocating the right amount of resources. Now, what is the right amount of resources? Well, it's going to vary. I used to work in the consumer packaged goods space, and the resource allocation there would be very different from at a public utility. But finding that right balance of resources, that can yield actionable insights. And that's great because it's not just a social thing again. You can take the learnings and you can apply that outside of just that digital team. And now you've got justification to senior management for why those people play on Facebook all day long in your group, right? And then the third thing is that you can get to a really great place when people can tell that they've been heard. Pretty simple, right? But if you do it, you can get there. Thank you for listening. Any questions?
That was the way you follow all helping the kids. Phenomenal. Yeah, no, not that our platform ever goes down, but if it does, I'd like to start with a barge break. That's phenomenal. Love it. Okay, so if there are any questions, we have a couple of minutes. Where's Laura's got as our new assistant from microphone? Does that work?
Hi, how long have you had a social listening program? What kind of resource allocation did you start with? And then what did you have to do to get the buy-in to get additional resources? Challenge that most of us, especially those not being a consumer
Sure. This honestly was big in getting that to change. With the utility, you've got an old company that's used to doing things a certain way, and social. When Ameren first started in the social space, it was really about broadcast. Like, this is just another place where we're going to say what we want to say and help people understand what we want to tell them. And so it takes a while to show that listening is arguably more valuable. It makes that which you want to communicate far more valuable, but the insights that you can get back to the rest of the business to help people understand, hey, that new energy efficiency program, they don't get what that is. Those are the kinds of things, and it's not just about social anymore. And then you realize that TV campaign that we ran, or those radio spots, the customers might not be fully understanding what that is. So it's tough, because you have to start going out there without the proper resources. You have to stretch a little bit to be able to pull those things out to then provide justification for, if you give me more, I can give you more too. And so that's what we had to do. And honestly, it took a storm of that kind of magnitude really to be a more major catalyst to say, oh yeah, this is the thing now.
So where did you go from and to where did you start and where are you now?
Well, a lot of other things changed too. We were actually really fragmented. We have 2 subsidiary utilities and then the corporate umbrella over the top, and we were 3 teams working separately. And events like this help actually roll us together. So the model that we have now, it isn't so much add more people, but it's taking the people, and we are much more elastic now in our ability to, if we need to pull from some of these other groups, we can. Customer service, at this point, customer service was not yet integrated in social at all for us. So in the last year, that has happened for us. And we also have a great agency partner now that we are able to expand to them and even outside the company if we need to do that. So just in the last year now, we have a much greater ability to scale up for things like this, but then on blue sky days, we're not over allocated.
Next. Questions?
Over here.
Over there. So while we're going over there, you talked about content and community, so we're going to encourage everyone to share
Who's
your
raising his hand?
takeaway from
Sorry.
Todd's chat thus far. What's your nugget? Your 1 foreign character, so there you go. Please tweet that out. Question over here, Rose.
Any questions?
Okay, well, with that said, Todd, a huge thank you.
Thank you so much.